Hello, hi, good evening, Andy.
Hello, Bharat. How are you this evening?
Thanks. Yeah,
Good.
actually, I was stuck in traffic, so I thought I will be late. Last class on Wednesday,
Yeah.
so I can't find recordings on Zoom Cloud. So could you check it maybe on your computer?
If there's a recording, if it's on my computer, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Go to Zoom account and see in recordings, and see local recordings. Is it there?
I'll just check. Right.
You should see in your Zoom account.
No,
And there,
no, not yet. I'm just checking in the Zoom recordings.
yeah, there'll be a tab on the top, local recording, cloud recording. So if it's local recordings, it will be in your computer. We didn't record last class. It's not on cloud.
It's just going through lots of folders at the moment. No, nothing at the moment.
The last
Um,
class is not recorded.
I can look, yeah, I can look for you after the class, and if the recording's here, I'll send it to you.
Okay. Yeah, meanwhile, you can send the PowerPoint, that will be fine.
It's always recorded, isn't it? Isn't it, Barrett?
Yeah, today's recording. I didn't record last class.
Yeah.
Automatically does.
It's
Anyway,
always automatically recorded, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't. No, nothing yet, but I can look. I can look at this evening for you if you want me to see if there's any Zoom recording.
you can check it later on, no problem. This one is showing its recording. I can see on the left.
Nothing yet, Barrett, but I'll look for you after the class.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, okay. Sandra is not coming this evening.
Mhm.
She has Good Friday,
Okay.
Romanian Good Friday
Okay.
celebration. So
Konica is-
hello, Konica, nice to hear your voice.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Yeah, thank you for the email with the lesson plan.
Yes,
Um,
yes. Was it all okay, my lesson plan?
Yeah, it looks good. Looks very good. If you want me to give any feedback, of course, on that, I
Yeah.
can, and you can keep it anyway in your portfolio.
Yeah.
You're building up resources, so yeah, it looks good. But if you'd like me to give you some, comments, something
Okay,
like
yeah,
that,
sure. Yeah.
sure, okay, I'll do that. Right. So how's the weather?
Awful.
Also,
Awful.
Wendy, I'm also preparing portfolio for everyone. So if you could send a copy to me as well. I'll just put it in the folder. I'm making folder for everyone.
What's that for, Barrett? Sorry.
Just like Konica has sent you,
Yes, that's right.
you give feedback on that. So mark a copy to me so that I can
Yeah.
folder for everyone. So I'll put in that folder.
Yes, of course I will. Yes, of course. I'll copy you in. I'll copy you in into that one as well. And then Barrett, don't forget to register me on the NCFE website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
As yeah. As
Actually,
your
I just came back today, so I just left.
Oh no, don't worry. I know you're busy, man. So don't worry.
The morning, first thing I will do.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Okay. Well, now we're looking at the last learning preference model. Okay, so we're looking, this is the last one. Then we're going to have a look at what we need to do for the assignment. Okay, so we did look at quite a few models on Wednesday. Remember any of the models that we looked at on Wednesday? Yes.
This last one was Feather Silverman learning style model.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Before that it was Herman model.
Yeah.
And for Herman it was
yeah.
Gregorius, Wark, and Colson.
Yeah. So we looked at a lot. Do you feel that there were some comparisons with some of the models?
Yeah, I in the last class this dynamic learners use all in Col's model the first, this convergers are dynamic and divergers are also dynamic.
Yeah.
And you go to work model, then kinesthetics learning styles. They are normally, I can say, assimilators. And when we go to the direct model and Harman, they're also learning styles, imaginative learners, conceptualize experience. So they are, if they are they only work on the basis of experience. So it means they are mainly assimilators. And there are lots of similarities, and we can draw types of learners also. We can categorize. There are cognitive speed, IQ, then MQ, achievement oriented, TQ, technical experience oriented.
Yeah.
So they, and in various theories, they are saying the similar sort of things, but in a different way.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Do you agree, Connica, that there are themes in the models that can be similar?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And it's the same with this one, Honey Mumford model, because it's quite similar to the Kolb model, and it introduces similar styles of how people learn or how people take on a learning style in the class. So you have activists, active learners do things practically, yeah, to gain knowledge from them. We had also some of the IQ and the TQ, technical people, technical quotients of people. So we have people that slot into those categories as well. Theorists, people who like to learn from existing facts and figures. Would that be yourself, Barrett? Would you be a theorist?
I
Would you say?
I myself should be mounting activists.
An activist. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would want to do things practically. Yeah. So
Right.
you want to be an active learner who learns something and you can use it. Yeah.
Yeah. And theories
Yeah.
and practices are fine, but they just give knowledge. On the basis of knowledge, you should develop your own way of working and
Yeah, that's right.
be conscious
That's
that
right.
the things, theories and facts and figures, they guide you from taking wrong decisions. But unless you take new decisions and practical things, no risk, no gain.
Yes, 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 yes. I agree with that. What about Connica? What do you think? What sort of learner or style do you think you would be with this model?
Not sure actually. I'm probably a theorist, I think.
Yeah,
A cross between theorist and pragmatic.
right.
Um,
Okay. So you like to learn from facts, but you also like to have ideas, conceptualize and experiment with
yeah,
ideas.
I think
Yeah,
definitely theorist. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. A reflector, what they see and learn from it. Well, I suppose we all need to be a reflector at some point, don't we, as teachers? You know, we need to know that after a reflection, we need to know that we've learned something from our experience in the class. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're now finishing this part of the question, and we're going to look at how we're going to approach the assignment.
Yeah.
Okay. So our task is to analyze models of learning preferences. So that's what we have to do as part of the task. So how we look at that is, right, so choose your models of learning preferences. So you might look at all of them. You might look at 4. You might, you might think there are 3 or 4 that you prefer because it's easier to remember and it's easier to put that into practice in your teaching environment. So choose whichever you feel. It's difficult to choose one, really, because you need to be able to compare and contrast some of these. So if you're choosing a model, use a paragraph for each one. So just use a paragraph and talk about one model. High-level academic connectives of comparison and contrast. Like on the other hand, subsequently, consequently, in light of, having considered, it would appear that. And then these are good openers for your paragraphs to talk about your knowledge of the particular learning model. So it gives you that opportunity to look at that. Of course, your question is analyze. So you have to analyze the constructive, practical side of the model of the learning preference. So really what you're looking at is it useful? How useful is it in, my practice? Or how useful, it might be? So really at the moment, I don't use that model, but it could work for me. So you're being realistic and you're being maybe an activist or a theorist or a pragmatist in terms of how you might use that model. You might just prefer one model, but for this, you need to have a look at, at least 3. So, and I will write that in at the top. What you're looking at is where would it be useful? So you might say that a lot of these models are not useful in AAT. But Konica might say, well, they are useful in English. I can see how they could work. Or I can look into the room and see specific types of learners who would benefit from these models. And then you're looking at who benefits from that model. Do you benefit from it? Or do the learners benefit from it? Or just benefit from the model? So, yep. And then use your reflective log to tie in with this criteria. Okay, so what about you in all of this? So you can't be someone who's not, gaining experience by your learning. So you're affected by it all as well. So you're looking at your own role and how you might want to implement one of those models. You could look at the difficulty of implementing the model. It could be difficult or it could be useful. And then, weigh up the overall links if you can see them between the models of learning, which you've just said. That should be preferences. A. No. Pref. Or A. Yeah. Okay. That's what you're doing in that assignment.
Yeah.
Just take the model, kind of strip it down a little bit into sizable parts. Look at the theories of what they've said. Look at how useful it is in practice for you. And then a little bit of maybe one sentence on a reflection. Now you can, as I've said, you can tie your reflective log in, because at that point you could be reflecting on that. So, okay, I've tried it. It's not really good for me. It doesn't work for me. So that's a reflection of that criteria. So it always remember you've got that. The reflective log is for you to help you with a lot of things as well. Are there any questions at all about the assignment or what you have to do or how many words or, you know, have you any questions about that?
How many words we expect?
So most of the assignments with the DET are usually between 600 and 800 words. What we need to get, Barrett, is the exact guidance from NCFE. Yeah, we need to get exactly what it is that we need, because all of the different bodies have different expectations for the assignments, but it's usually 600 to 800. And you're just showcasing what you know, really. So if you chose 3 models, for example, you'd easily get 600 words with 3 models. If you had 3 or 4 paragraphs, you might have an introductory paragraph. You might have 3 main body paragraphs that are looking at 3 models, and then you might have your summary. So your summary is the overall links where you see those.
Okay, so 1.2, 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. So they will be treated as 1 assignment or 3 assignments.
Yeah. So with 1.1 and 1.2, you could combine those.
And 1.3 is separate.
You can combine those, but you're probably at that point then, Barrett, looking at, you know, maybe 1,200 words because you're combining. Yeah, it's difficult. It is difficult to justify an answer on that criteria with a smaller word count because you can't do yourself justice. So you know, if you do one at 800 and other ones at 800, that's 1,400. If you combine 1.1 and 1.2, then what you're actually doing is you can break it down into 1,200 words. Yeah, this one about 600.
Yeah.
I know it's, you think, oh, there's a lot of work in this. There's a lot of things to do at the beginning with this a theoretical model. It's quite heavy, you know. But as time goes on, you will be able to see that your criteria has been met in observations, in reflective logs. There's lots of ways to meet criteria. We're not always doing assignments, and we're going to make sure that we do find different ways. So maybe, I don't know, with NCFE, but with City and Guilds, they will allow even a professional discussion to be recorded. So, you know, we have to look at if NCFE will have that as well, if they will allow us to do that. Just to let you know, Barrett, it's not a conflict of interest, but I have been appointed as an EQA for NCFE. But don't worry, it's nothing to do with Nova, and it's to do with other colleges and things. So don't, you know, I'm letting you know because it's still NCFE. I'll be on their system in that way, but I'll not be on their system as a registered teacher. So it's just to let you know that, yeah. Okay. Do you feel confident and happy enough that you can do this?
Yeah, we can. I think 600 words are less. I think it's less. It should be more.
Yeah. I mean, you know, this one is not for the 18th of April, of course. You know, this one is have a go whenever you get time. Send it to me. If it's a draft, I'll look at it and I'll say, yeah, that's great. That's fine. That's good. That's acceptable. You know, just make sure that when you're doing the first one that you feel that you're confident enough to, or that you have enough information to answer 1.1 and 1.2. And if you know, as I say, combine them, you might be able to slot bits of 1.2 into 1.1, and then I'll be out. When you do, if you do that, make sure that you write your criteria into that answer. So if you're talking about 1.1 about pedagogical theory, make sure that maybe if you make a reference to evaluating in your own area of specialism, you know, a creative side of things, that you've said in brackets 1.2. Yeah.
Yep.
So just put it after, if you've made a sentence or you're trying to justify or elaborate on criteria for 1.2, just put it in it like a bracket. 1.2 criteria. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't know until we try these things. So, don't worry. We're here to help each other. Right. So we're looking at 1.4.
Mhm.
And we're looking at identifying and taking account of learners' individual learning preferences, which enables inclusive teaching, learning, and assessment. Right. So what that means is that when we're in a class and we realize that we've got abstract, concrete experimenters, convergers, accommodators, assimilators, we've got people with IQs, we've got people with LQs, we've got people with TQs, we've got people from different cultural backgrounds, we've got people who English is their second language. We've got a lot of diversity in the class, and we are teachers who are trying our very best to deal with that. So we have to vary everything when we are teaching and consider individual learning needs. So as we know, different people do have different learning preferences. So we talked about VARC, and we know that some people are visual, auditory, or kinesthetic learners, or all three sometimes. There's lots of models, to describe those. A learning style is one that accounts for learner differences. So it's what we've just been looking at in 1.3 is models that help us to inform us as teachers of what we need to do in the class to cater for different types of learners. So we're looking at how it can be useful in understanding the different ways we learn. So as we are as individual teachers, we have areas of strength, but we also have areas of improvement. We're never in a position to say that we're weak. We should never say that we're weak. We always need to talk about how strong we are. And we just say, oh, I need a little bit of a model to look at to practice, and that will help me improve my delivery. Or it helps me plan my lesson, or it helps me to change my resources, something like that. We're looking for tools to help us. I mean, if you're someone who's a car mechanic and, you don't have the tools to service a car, for example, well, you can't do it. Yeah, you can't do it. So we need tools. Our tools are, some people would say, conceptualized tools. So we need thinking skills, we need knowledge from different things. And this is why on the Det course, you're getting all of that. A learner style refers to specific learning preferences and actions. So as we know, some learners learn good by listening, and others prefer to take notes. Other learners like to read, and other students, they benefit from charts, graphs, images. Lots of people like to see a visual image of something because then they can follow it logically. So would that be true of AAT, would you say, Barrett?
In accounting,
if you had a chart or a graph or an image, is that better to learners? Do you think they learn better with those things?
No, I think they learn better with giving them practical questions to practice. Because this is a matter of numbers, so we have to give them lots of questions, similar questions, so that they work out the percentages and they find out the treatment of various figures, numbers. I mean, they should be able to put on various accounts, and it's more like practicing. Just showing graphs won't help. We have to give them lots of questions to practice. Okay, this 5 entries, where will you put these 5 entries? Then give them similar entries again. Okay, now there's a big difference in that, but you have to guess, you have to follow the principles and identify whether these entries will be debit or credit. So merely showing them
Okay.
the images won't help.
Yeah. So with a variety of methods, do you feel that they do internalize the knowledge? They're understanding everything, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes, well, I mean, some students like us, they have different ways of finding what the best way of learning is, I think. So some people they just like to stick to a visual model. Other people, they'll all, some people will try to do different things, they will try, but lots of people often stick with what they feel is good for them. They feel safe with certain models of practice, and they like that. And often if, for example, Barrett is off on holiday or he goes away, someone is taking over his class. Sometimes they don't like that. Now, it's not that they don't like the teacher, they don't like their method, and they will say that, they will say, oh, well, I don't like him, or I don't like her, because it's not the same as Barrett or Konica. And it's because they like your style, they enjoy that. And what they like. So it's a good, happy marriage. But because we have to be inclusive and we have to help everyone get same equal opportunity access to everything, we are sometimes in difficult situations trying to understand, as we've always said in these lessons, why does that Sebastian not understand every time? He's always asking the same questions. Why is that? Why is Maria in the English class? Why is she still asking me the same things when I've already told her 100 times? And this is the problem. This is often not the problem of the teacher. It's often a problem of the learner. So we can feel a little bit lost as to how to encourage them to be responsible for their own learning. When we looked at pedagogical theories, we have to never lose sight of the fact that we've often got to look at the Jones model, or the Skinner model, or Piaget, and look and think, well, really, I think it is a cognitive issue, really. Done enough scaffolding as I possibly can, and that's not working. So obviously you're looking at what the cognitive issues are as to why they're not learning, even although they have a learning preference. That it's whatever it is, it's just nothing's being processed. So again, you're trying to help everyone to achieve, and that's what we're trying to do. So for your learners then, if you recognize a learning strength, then use that strength. Yeah. Use your strength by adding more of it to your learning strategies. Don't stop using the other modalities. For example, if you discover that listening is a strength for you, then it would be useful for you to add listening activities to your coursework. So for this is for your learners, right? So if you're talking to your learners, then what you're doing is you're speaking to we're speaking together as equals, but we are all teachers. So we're talking to our learners. We're saying, well, I mean, if you like listening and if you like watching, if you like visual things, or if you like doing all the time, well, maybe stick with that if that's how you learn best. Although we like to be able to encourage our learners to think a little bit out of the box and try different approaches to things. If they're learning style, which could be VARC, any one of those is, or they could be an assimilator or an accommodator. What we've got to acknowledge is that's what they like and that's how they learn, and they will do that best. That's the way they do that. So it's often good to speak to learners about the best way for them to learn. Yeah, and we're all very different as teachers. Okay, so we need to be able to think about how we learn. So how do we learn? Do we learn by listening? Do we learn by watching? Do we learn by images? How do we learn? So that's what we're looking at. So when, you know, if you've always taught the same way, if your learners enjoy that teaching method and are learning from your teaching method, that's good. And if it gets success. But for parts of your observations, it's nice to be able to think about something different. Just try something different. Now, it might just be an experiment, as we have said before, but what we're looking at is an experiment that could go wrong, or it could go well. Now, we don't know that, do we, until we try. So what we have to remember is we're trying, that's all. Now, we're not maybe worried at that point if there is success from it. We're just sort of looking at it through a microscope to see how effective it is. So I tried this method. It is not really very good. It didn't work very well. So we're looking at that in terms of a reflective log about yourself. Yeah. So we do have theories of intelligences as well. So when we're looking at being inclusive and having the strategies that are inclusive, we've got to often set it in the context of theory.
And this is another
Okay,
theory.
so Gardner's theories of
Gardner
multiple.
theory is another theory. Yeah? This is another theory. Gardner theory.
Yeah. Howard Gardner.
Okay.
Yeah, Howard.
Theory,
yeah. So as we know, some people are musical, some people are body kinesthetic, body smart, as in they love sport, they love exercise, they love going to the gym. You know, these are all things that they like to do. We have also people who are interpersonal. So we looked at that in our learning preference styles. You know, they like to speak with people, they like to communicate, they're very good with other people. We have people who are verbal linguistics. They're word smart. They can read things, understand things, interpret things, apply things. We've got logical, mathematical people. Logic smart. Now, would you say accountants would be logic smart?
Yes, yeah, they are logic smart.
They're logic smart, yeah. And would you say in English you have to be word smart? Monica?
Plus nature smart.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think teachers need to be word smart?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You are word smart.
Yeah. Do we need to be people smart? Do we need to be able to communicate with people? Do we need to be able to explain everything to them? Yeah, we do. We need to be interpersonal. As a teacher, we need to be word smart and logic smart. Nature smart is naturalistic, is something different. This is for people who, like myself, I have to say, who love to go into nature and enjoy in the mountains and the rivers and by the sea. And they're smart, not smart about nature, but smart about the feelings that the nature brings. So nature can bring a lot of feelings to people. You know, if you go anywhere that you feel it can bring you peace and relaxation, and you might feel that that's a forest or a mountain or wherever. Maybe you don't get that opportunity. I understand that in London it's not the same opportunity. You don't have that, but you know, in some parts when you could maybe go away for a weekend somewhere, you can get nice nature and you can relax, you can enjoy that. Intrapersonal. So inter means between people, inter, and intra is in on yourself. So you're self-smart. What does that mean, self-smart?
You can think for yourself and do it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ability to interact
Yeah.
other
I think if you're
attract yourself, the ability
Yeah.
you attract other people towards you, and so show your self smartness.
That's right. That's right. So you kind of know a little bit about yourself. You know what makes you tick. You know what's good for you, what's not good for you. You're self-aware. You're very self-aware. You reflect on yourself a lot. You know, you reflect on your actions. You take responsibility for your actions. You know, you're someone who takes, you know, your life and your work and maybe your religion seriously. You know, you take your family seriously, your friendships, because that's how you feel as an individual. So it's not selfishness, it's not self-absorption. It's about knowing what's good, and it's about knowing what is a good thing for you in terms of keeping you sane, maybe every day. Barrett's a busy man. He's a very busy man, and he needs to think about plans and priorities in his work that keeps him sane. He can manage himself because he has to. He knows how to. He knows he has to work long hours. He knows what he has to do, and he knows he has to put a good work ethic in to his role. Conniga has a lot of preparation to do for her work, and she has to do a lot of research. So she's self-smart as well. So, you know, we can all be lots of those different things. You know, we're not always just one thing in life. We can be a lot of things in life. Picture smart is more visual. Visual, spatial. Yeah. So spatial awareness is very important. I mean, there is a theory that they say that if a man has got better spatial awareness than a woman, now that's a theory. Okay, and what they say is that if a man is, and this is, I think it's true about this example, when a woman is reversing a car in, sometimes it's not very good. She's not very good, because she doesn't see. It's a spatial awareness issue. But a man, sometimes, I can see my sons can do it in like one turn, and they're parked perfect. I can't do that. I can't. Maybe I'm getting better. I don't know. But they, you know, my sons do say, "Oh, you can't reverse and park your car. You're not very good." You know, it's true. It's true. I mean, I'm not bad, but I'm not very good. You know, I'm not perfect. So I don't have that spatial, visual spatial thing. I don't have that. So it's quite, you know, it's a gift if you have it. I think men do have a lot of that about themselves. You know, when they're driving, they can anticipate things a little bit maybe better. It's not, you know, that I'm saying women can't, but I can see, I've been in, especially when they're driving, in cars with my sons who I personally would not do what they do. And they can see that their car can go into the smallest, you know, on the road, and there's another car coming, and they, oh, no, you'll get in, you'll get back, you'll get through that. I said, no, I don't think so. I said, you will. And they know that. So wherever that comes from, they always talk about men's brains are like a motorway and women's brains are like a snake pass. It's back and forward, crisscross, all, Barrett knows that, don't you, Barrett? You know that women's minds are like that.
No comment. There are two women in front of me.
It's always like they're thinking something, then something else happens, and then another thing.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit complicated, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so just again, it's just the same thing. It's just I was going to play a YouTube thing, but I don't think you need that on Gardner's theories. But it's just to remind you that in your class, the reason why you look at Gardner's theories of these multiple intelligences, because you might remember that when you're in class with some people that they are different to the person beside them. Now, if you were to do a bit of research with the group and ask the group, if you did a VARC questionnaire, you could do that as one of your lessons. And then the visual learners could stay together. The learners who are score on the auditory side can stay in a group, and then the kinesthetic people stay together. Now, the reason why you could do that as an experiment is because you would then be able to differentiate your resources to help them. Okay, so you could say, well, there's 5 people over here. Now I know they like visual resources. They learn best from the visual side of things. So I'll do that. But then with this other group, they like listening better. So maybe I'd be better to kind of get them to listen to instructions as to how to do whatever. And then you could have your kinesthetic people. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to have 3 lessons. You do it in one lesson, but you're just doing different activities and resources to please the visual learners, the auditory learners, and the kinesthetic learners. And if you feel that that's the most appropriate model, it is good to give them the questionnaire, give them a VARC questionnaire, and get them to complete it. And then you will begin to see how they do learn. And maybe you might be surprised. You might get shocked at some people because they might not even be visual learners, and all of your lessons have been visual. So it's sometimes it's eye-opening exercise, to do that. I can send you the link to the VARC or the questionnaire, and you can, just experiment with it when you have time. Now, what I'd like to do is recap now on this criteria and get some understanding about how we're going to write that one. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the question again. Right, so 1.4. So you have 1.3. So what do you think? Do you think you would tie in 1.4 with 1.3?
Yeah,
Yeah?
you can.
Yeah, yeah, you could do that. Yeah. So what you're looking at is identifying and taking account of learners' individual learning preferences. Yeah. So you have an explanation for this one. Now, the other one was analysis. Yeah. But this one is just an explanation. So you're trying to explain how identifying, taking account of learners' individual learning preferences enables inclusive teaching. So how could it enable inclusive teaching? Would you say VARC? VARC could enable inclusive teaching?
VARC does. VARC also does inclusive teaching and learning assessment.
Yeah,
In fact, all the models have similar sort of objective,
yeah,
and they enable um, inclusive learning and teaching, and they if the teacher is able to identify based upon any one model what are the types of students he's facing in the class.
yeah,
So following any model, and so if it, when it's VAC or even it's um, the most popular is Harman or Kolb's or Grigorek. If he is able to identify what type of learners he is facing in the class, and he
yeah,
tries, and he in his mind he makes a category of learners that okay, um, in this row we have learners who are active. Even in schools they divide cohorts on the basis of um, their scores in the previous qualification. If you go GCSE, they are
yeah,
divided from say 5 sections. So the section 5, they have learners who had scored less
yeah,
marks in the previous exams. So that's a basically application of one of the theories. So
yeah,
it's not necessary that they are working on the basis of any particular this learning model, but in the mind they have in practical they have put that theory, um, the how they will organize their teaching and learning and for different type of learners. So that's 1.4 is basically properly explains what's actually happening in the schools.
yes, that's
That's
right,
why
that's
I have
right.
the top grade. My both sons were in top grades, and now I'm in an A now. Earlier I was in B, so they have promoted me to B to A. So that's basically identification of their skills, their learning pattern, their behavior, or whatever theory you apply. That's basically identification and practical implementation.
That's right. So what you could do is you could look at what we will do is we will try after the break. We'll have a break in about 15 minutes, but after the break, we're going to look at how these tie up 1.3 and 1.4.
Yeah.
So we know that one is analysis and one's an explanation. So an explanation can be tied into an analysis. So we can tie it all up together so that we're not looking at, oh, another piece of work, we're trying to make it easier for you, really easier for you so that you can just combine both together and then demonstrate by using an example, which you've used already.
Yeah.
So, we're not here to be able to, in the class, stand in the class and think we don't do that, but we don't think to ourselves in class, oh, I'm using Kolb at the moment. We're not thinking that way. We're thinking about, I've got a lot of different people here. I need to be able to cater for all of these different learners. I need to know really how best they learn. So I'm going to put the assimilators together, the accommodators together. I'm going to split them up and just see how they work together. Or I'm not going to, so what we're going to try and do is make sure that when we are looking at both points, both criteria, that we, make that link. Yeah, that's what we want to do. We want, we don't want lots of work. So we will do that after the break. Gardner's theory of intelligences are it's good. It's good because it's like a bedrock. We can slip this into the assignment as well. That we're aware of his theory of intelligences, and that we do have people in class who are often, people smart, word smart, logic smart. It's just they're acronyms, really.
Yep.
But what they're acronyms that help us to show off our knowledge in the diploma. So someone else looks at it, IQA looks at it, oh, that's superb. You've got everything combined, everything's tied up nicely. AQA looks at the IQA's work, samples it, and probably will be 100% sample because there are only 3 of you. So that it would be unable to do anything else, but it'll all be good. Yeah, so we're going to try and do that. Yeah, we're going to show how we can do that. Like the one model assignment, yeah, a way of doing it together. And what time do you want to have a break? Do you want to have a break now? Do you want to have a break in 15 minutes, or what do you want to? How do you want to, continue?
You can have break now for 5 minutes.
Okay, have a break now, and then come back in about 10 minutes.
Okay, sure.
And then we'll continue with looking at this and how to answer it. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. See you soon.
See you soon.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay. Right. Okay, so we're still looking at what we're going to try and do is tie up the 1.3 and the 1.4.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do is go through this, and then what we will look at is combining both, using a model as an example, and how we're going to put that 1.3 and 1.4 into an assignment form, yeah, like a format. Okay, other ways of dealing with individual learning preferences in an inclusive manner through our learning, our teaching and our learning are to differentiate. We need to differentiate our resources. We can only differentiate resources when we know what type of learner we have. So although they could be learning English, they could be learning accountancy, they will still be learners who have their own learning preference and style. Yeah. So in your area of specialism, you will have learners who, like a variety of activities. That could be because they are a visual learner or an auditory or a kinesthetic learner. Also, they could be an assimilator, an accommodator, a converger, a diverger, anything. So we're going to try and make sure that we get this all together in an assignment format. Scaffolding learning. So we know about Skinner. So now we're able to, in our assignment, refer to theorists who deal with differentiation and scaffolding. So scaffolding is where we can have a sequential format to the learning. So we can have a step-by-step process of how they should be able to achieve tasks. We always want equality. We always want to achieve quality in our teaching. And we want them to be able to have a sense of pride, in terms of the quality of what they produce in the class. We want them to feel respect for their work and respect for you as the teacher. We need to develop their talents. So what we're doing when we're looking at accounting for their individual learning preferences, we are being inclusive by differentiation, by scaffolding, by helping them achieve quality. We're looking at developing their talent in that specific area of specialism. They could be very talented in English, in their acquisition of the language, in their writing, in their comprehension, and they could be very, very talented in their accountancy field, knowing everything quickly, gaining knowledge quickly, applying the knowledge quickly. We're looking at Bloom's taxonomy as ways of ensuring that at least learners will understand the tasks enough to achieve. Creating interest. So don't make all the lessons. Maybe some of your specialisms have to be standardized delivery. Don't make all your lessons. Try not to make all your lessons that way. Try to make some of your lessons, interesting. I'm sure they are interesting. I'm sure they are, but try and always think about creativity, innovation. What could I do to make things different today? Well, I just get that group to form together, and they can go off and do an independent research task, or that group will give a presentation to all of the class on this particular subject. So it gives them an interest. If they have to go away and prepare for your class, well, it gives them something that they have to focus on. Maybe have days where you don't teach and they take control of the class. So give them a subject and say, group A, you have to prepare that. Group B, you will do an observation, you will ask questions about that. It varies everything. That comes into your planning. So like in your lesson plan, Konica, when you're planning something, when you're planning what is going to happen. You're the master of control.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be. So, but then there could be a day where part of your planning is to get the learners to do that. So yeah, you can do it today. So you're not getting them to plan the lesson, but what you're doing is you're getting them to take ownership of what should be in the classroom lesson that day.
Mm-hmm.
So next week I want you to, and then you give responsibility to them, and then you can say you're using the theory, teaching theory, which is Jones or
Excuse me. Tomorrow, Konica is teaching at 10:30.
Yeah.
And would you like to do some observation?
Well, tomorrow I'll have to be.
Myself and do the report.
Yeah, if you can record it.
Let's record it.
Yeah, that would be excellent. I'd love to see that. Is it 1 hour, Konica?
1.5 hours. 2 hours.
Half hour. Good, excellent.
Yeah, 1.5 to 2 hours, I think.
Is it?
Is it, Parrot? I wanted to ask: is it how long is the class tomorrow?
Hello.
Hi, Parrot. Sorry, how long is the class tomorrow? Is it going to be 1 hour or?
It's 2 hours.
Okay.
Are you doing all the class, Konica?
Yes.
Yeah, she does all the recordings are there. I will send you all the recording.
Yeah, that would be good. That's great. That because then we can keep that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll send you
so
my
we-
recording and Sunday's recording as well.
Yeah, we'll keep that, and then we'll look at that together, Konica,
Yeah.
and we'll give I'll give you feedback on your delivery,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and then
And Parrot, sorry, is my next class on Tuesday or Thursday?
Thursday,
At what time?
4:30.
4:30. Okay, thank you.
right, that's good, excellent. Yeah, yeah. If there's anything like this that's going to come up, and if I have, you did say that she was teaching on Saturday. I know you said that, Barrett. You said she would be teaching. But if there's something like that, that's going to, you're going to plan maybe the next 4 or 5, lessons, and Barrett is doing one or Connick is doing one. Yeah, recording it is useful. We can always ask NCFE if we can use that. At the moment, I don't know if we can use that one, but hopefully we could use that, because that would be good, because if it's 2 hours, as I saw on your lesson plan, but I thought maybe you're just doing some of it, like 30 minutes maybe of the class.
What, me, Wendy, or?
Yeah.
So my lesson plan is for 1 hour, which means I'm going to add to. I do have more activities as well, so that's good that it's longer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll just have to adjust it, I think.
Right. Okay. No, don't worry. I'll look there. I'll give you that feedback this evening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then it means that you can incorporate that into it for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or on reflection, you
Yeah.
don't need to do it this evening for tomorrow, but then you can, it's always good to show your first draft and to show the second draft of a lesson plan, because that shows improvement.
Yeah.
So it's always good to do that, and it's always good to keep copies of that and
Yeah,
feedback forms
exactly.
and printouts from the tutor or teacher who's teaching you, obviously at the moment me, to show, you know, it shows progress.
Yeah.
So it's always good to keep all of that.
Yeah, I've got a file of all my lesson plans.
That's good. That's brilliant. That's very good. Yeah, very good. So when we're looking at learners, we have to celebrate diversity. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're all different, aren't they?
Exactly.
So we've got to recognize that we're all unique people. We're all people of enormous value in life. We bring a lot of value to life. We may struggle with a particular form of learning, but then as long as the teacher is aware of that struggle, then the teacher once identifies, when that's identified, the teacher can change that, or not change it, but they can offer an alternative method of learning. So we don't always know things until we try them. So tomorrow, for example, Konica, you could be in a situation of trying something and it works for some people, but not all.
Exactly.
And that's how it is in a class. You know, we don't know that everyone is going to pick up the information at the same rate as other people.
Yeah.
And you know we need theory, but we can't always go into a class with a shroud of theory around our neck, you know, and go, I have to remember Kolb, I have to remember Jones, I have to remember Skinner, you know. I mean, we know the theory of some of those that we remember and that we liked in our pedagogical lesson, and so some of it might stick, and we might introduce that as part of our, you know, diversity, you know, catering for everyone, being inclusive in the class. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's good in a class. It's not always possible because dependent upon the learning environment, we can't always remove clutter. So sometimes in a class we do have bits of clutter, you know, that just it's part of the class. It sits around, you know. We're not going to reorganize the class completely, but sometimes for some people, clutter is it puts them off learning. Although we don't think that way, we think, well, I mean, the books have always been here, these things have always sat on the benches or around the room. I mean, what's the problem? There isn't a problem. But if we maybe did ask people at some point, do you mind these things being in the room? Are you happy with it here? I mean, they might all say, yeah, it's fine. Or they might say, no, I don't like it. So it's just where we have too much, maybe, you know, and too many things that are distractions. That's what it is. We're trying to be inclusive, and some people love clutter and some people despise clutter. So it can be something that is a block to their learning. Have clear, smart, measurable outcomes, as you do have, Konica. Yes, always have those, because you know then what your steps are to achieving those. So if you have you know, measurable things that are going to be achieved, if they are not achieved, it's not a problem, because then on your reflection of that, which will tie very nicely into your reflective log from your lesson tomorrow, then what you're looking at is then a reflection of why that particular thing didn't go so well. Now, you mustn't always take full responsibility for that yourself as a teacher. You must bear in mind all the external factors, the internal factors within individuals, the motivation, the internal motivation, the external motivation, you know, their learning preference style, the environment that they're in. Remember, you don't need to take the full responsibility for some people in the class who just don't get it. So what in your situation tomorrow, Konica, what do you think you would do if someone in the class is just saying, no, honestly, I don't understand?
Probably ask them what they don't understand and get clarification and make them understand better, maybe using aids or tools, or moving on to a different task, then speaking to that learner separately, or like going and spending more time if it's taking up too much time, or just repeating the task as well.
Yeah.
Can I
So,
give this?
sorry, Barrett, yes?
If the learner is not understanding,
Yeah,
we are in 1.4, which is explain how identifying, taking count of learners' individual learning preference can enable to help you decide the teaching method. So
yeah,
we should go back to the theory. We should go back to what the type of learner, and accordingly select the
yeah,
preferred theory and go back to theory and relate with that. If maybe this learner is kinesthetic or he is an assimilator, so accordingly devise your strategy to make him understand.
that's right. So if all else doesn't work in any lesson, we always go and we always refer to FARC, because then we know, as you said, Barrett, that there is another way that we can get them to understand the task. Now, as you've said, Konica, right, vary the activities a little bit, maybe recap on the task again, maybe with that individual, go and speak with them on a one-to-one basis, not ignoring the class, obviously, but when the class are busy with the task, then you're talking to that individual about maybe more of a differentiated, scaffolded approach to the task. So yeah, well, okay, if you can just do part one of the task or part two or something, yeah, what you want is you want that learner to feel a sense of pride in some achievement of some of the task. So if they don't understand all of the task, well, it could be that if, for example, when you're boarding your task and then you're testing their understanding of the outcomes, okay, I've got my clear, smart, measurable outcomes on the board. Can everyone maybe, or anyone, explain to me what it is I want you to do today? So you test them like nearly immediately. Test them immediately and ask them for feedback.
Yeah.
So what is it that we're doing here today? Okay, right, yeah. So maybe someone's not saying anything and they might be that person who doesn't understand. So when you're looking at your Bloom's taxonomy,
Yeah.
you've got people recognizing the outcomes. You want them to understand the outcomes, what it is they're clear about or not clear about these outcomes. And then if you're intuitively picking up that this person or persons or a group, so 2 or 3 people are not really in tune with the task, then your quickest movement is allow the majority of the group to continue with the task, and then the other 3 or 4 or 1, then what you're doing is you're approaching them. So you're using your interpersonal skills, and what you're saying is, I would like you to be able to do. So then you break it down into a scaffolding exercise.
Yeah.
And hopefully then the rest are getting on with the task. So you're not having to be too concerned about the some that are not getting it, because then you know that you want them to get some of it, not all of it, because they won't. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that might just be to do with a cognitive thing, could be to do, as Barrett says, something to do with their learning preferences. Maybe they don't like doing tasks that way. So this is where we always fall back on FARC, because we think, well, I'll get them to I'll get a sheet, I'll get an A5 sheet, I'll put that in the table I'll keep this at the side as a backup plan. I'll give that to that group of some who might not get it the way that most of them get it. And then what I want them to do is, maybe do it in a diagrammatical fashion, something like that. Yeah. So, you can make theirs a little bit more simple. And for them, then you're being pragmatic, and you're also being someone who, you're relying on your inner knowledge to guide them through. At the end of the session, what you hope is that they have this sense of achievement. And they'll all have a sense of achievement. They all will. But it's like quite a lot of things in life. We all pick it up in different ways. And some of us are, word smart, logic smart. We're all different. So
yeah,
we're just relying on guidance. Unfortunately, in our roles, we have to be everything to everyone. And they expect that. They do expect that. But we can only do what we can do, and the best to our ability as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of why it's important to identify and meet individual learner needs when teaching. So Hawkins defines inclusive teaching, learning and assessment as the ways in which pedagogy, curricula and assessment are designed and delivered to engage students in learning that is meaningful, which you'll be doing tomorrow, Konica. Yeah, relevant and accessible to all. So as long as they have access to some of the learning tomorrow, that's as much as you can do.
Yeah.
It embraces a view of the individual and individual difference as the course of diversity that can enrich the lives and learning of others. Well, what do you think about that? Do you agree with that?
Excuse me, is this 1.4 or 1.5?
Page 1.
No, this is 1.4, still 1.4, part of 1.4.
Yes, sorry, yeah, it is, yeah. We're looking at why it's important to meet individual learner needs. So is it important, or do we do, or can we not be responsible for everyone in the class and just go, well, it'll have to be okay, because I can't be, dancing around to everyone's tune. I've got to, just deliver my lesson. I mean, what way are we approaching this teaching? Are we trying to help everyone, or are we just saying, well, this is how it is, and if they don't understand it, what can I do? What attitude should we have to this diversity and this differentiation? Should we be always having backup plans, resources, everything? Do we need to continually do that as teachers, or can we just say, well, sorry, but if you don't get it, you don't get it? I mean, what's your opinion? What would your opinion of that be? Do you think that it's a big ask of us to always ensure that everyone achieves do you think that that's unrealistic?
Yes and no. I think like it's a good target, but to expect it might be unrealistic.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Can do his best to do it, but it's not 100% realistic. To some extent, it may not be, it cannot be 100% realistic, but they can do their best efforts. Because if the teacher is trying to make understand 100% of the learners, so then the others who are actually actively learning will suffer uh, from the section that everyone has to understand. So it can be the learners who are not understanding can be helped separately with the addition, the extra classes or lessons. But
yeah.
target should be to achieve as much as possible.
Yeah, well, yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I agree with both of you, because I think that, yeah, we have to try. We have to try and cover every aspect, every corner, every possible part of the lesson, and in our preparation. But we are people as well who have lives. We have busy lives. We have family, friends. We need to be able to remember that we're doing our best, and we're taking our roles seriously. We're not going in like some sort of circus, and well, okay, right, if you don't get it, you don't get it, and what can I do? We're not taking that attitude. We're not being dismissive, we're being constructive. But at the end of the day, we have to remember that we are people who can only do so much. And our hope and our aspirations are that everyone will achieve and learn from us as the instructor. But we can't guarantee. We can test whether they do or they don't, but we can't guarantee that we'll always find a solution. Yeah. Yeah. So well, that's all we can do. We can only just do our best every time. So why is inclusive teaching, learning, and assessment important? So it prepares students to succeed in diverse working environments. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if they have the ability in accounting or the ability in English, they could make that a specialism of theirs, or they could find a nice kind of diverse working place where they're able to use that. So really, we want to equip them with the skills that they need to use that in diverse environments. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be communicating in the shop. It could be filling in forms. It could be giving them a kind of a different sense of logic in accounting that they can apply to different situations, where their mind is thinking now in a different way completely, because they never have known how accounting is and what it involves. So they're able to you're teaching them new skills that they're able to take away with them. So that's the main thing. Evidence shows that organizations perform better if their workforce is more diverse. So of course, I mean, we're all different. It's all about diversity. So what you have is your strength could be my weakness or area for improvement, and vice versa. So we know that, we can't be everything to everyone and do everything. Well, we can't. We can try, but we can try. Through inclusive teaching and learning practices, for example, providing students or opportunities for students to work in diverse groups, we will equip our learners with the knowledge, skills, and understanding to succeed. So if we have diverse groups in the class of people, this diversity could be based on their learning preferences. It could be where all the learners who are assimilators, they work together, or we could have assimilators and convergers working together. Why not? Now, of course, we don't know that they are all going to be labeled as those as a theoretical term, that type of learner. But in our minds, we know in our classes who's good at what, who can do the task quicker. We know that some people struggle with. We know those things, so we try and make allowances for that, and we try to scaffold our learning to cater for that. So just a few more, and then we're going to have a look at combining everything together. So students do value an inclusive approach. Students value teaching that recognizes their individual academic and social identities, and that addresses their particular learning needs and interests. Yeah. It is our legal obligation under the Equality Act, really, to do that. So in education, we have to be very mindful of the Equality Act and how people learn. Of course, we do always have situations where sometimes people don't declare to us that they have any mental health issues, any learning needs. We don't know that because they don't tell us. So we have to try and guess. We're guessing about what it is that makes them or prevents them from proceeding and going forward. We have a legal obligation to provide education in a non-discriminatory way. So, you know, we can't discriminate against people based on, oh, someone's from Brazil or someone's from, you know, Scotland or wherever. You know, we have to take everyone and treat them the same. We need to be inclusive. Even if we just look at the Equality Act, we're being inclusive. It's good for all students because, you know, students get a lot from being with other people who are different, and they enjoy it and they learn from them. And I mean, that it's like ourselves, you know, when we're in groups and we're doing training or anything, it's nice to be with other people because, you know, everyone's different. So we do learn a lot. O'Neill states that inclusive assessment benefits all students as offering a range of assessment takes into account students' differing learning styles, strengths, time constraints, and personal or employment commitments. Now, some of these academic quotes are very useful for our approach to answering both criteria. So we will be looking at those as ways to introduce and, you know, combine things. Okay, so inclusive teaching can be in the form of reflect on your assumptions about students. So we might assume that Jose can't go to level 2 in English because he has not done very well at level 1 and he doesn't seem to be making much headway with his writing. Well, how do we know that? Well, we can assess that, but we don't assume that he can't go to level 2 unless he has tried it a number of times and not passed it, or he doesn't pass level 1. So we have concrete evidence. So we can't always assume that people will come to their learning and always, you know, we're not in any position to make those judgments. We're in a position to assess them. We're in a position to judge their ability. But if we don't always offer them the correct method and the correct learning environment or scaffolding style or differentiation, well, they may not succeed. So we just have to cover everything in every lesson. Set explicit expectations for your students. Like we've said, clear, smart, measurable outcomes. This is what I want all of you to achieve. This is what I want most of you to achieve. And this is what some of you will do. So then we do differentiate by using that terminology. Avoid ignoring or singling out students to speak for an entire group. You know, we always know a student in the class who puts their hand up and, you know, it's like me, you know, I have the answer. Yes, well, you know, someone else please in the room. So that's sort of how you're doing it. Yes, yeah, I know that you know the answer. I want someone else here to give me the answer, and give people the opportunity, you know, to not necessarily, you know, discriminate against the person that always has the answer, but it gives people the opportunity to feel at ease with talking themselves. So you're creating that inclusive environment. Build staff, student and student rapport. So there could be someone in the class you don't particularly like. And, you know, you're not really, you know, they're annoying or something, you know, they're not really, you know, doing their work and they're lazy, or they talk too much and they're always late for the class and they're always asking questions and, you know, and they're irritating. Well, I think that is reality of people and life. So we have to manage that person or persons, because could be more than one. So what we're looking at is building our relationship with the student. So how do we do that? We need to be interpersonal. We need to focus on that relationship. And then what we're doing is trying to manage the difficulties within that relationship. So then you might give them extra tasks to do. You might get them to move seats. You might get them to work with a different person. You know, you might bring them to another place in the room where you can keep your eye on them, really. And that's the sort of thing that you're doing. And often students always sit with other people that they know well, that they like, that, oh, that's my friend, I've made friends with whoever, and we always sit together, we always do our work together. Well, not today, okay? So I want you all to get to know each other or get to know different people. So I'm going to move Barrett, just getting away from Conica. Now you're going to be moved to over with Sebastian. Oh, no, why is that? Because this is how the class is being run today. Because never lose sight of the fact that you're in control of the class. You're the master of the class. You're the, you know, you're the guy or the woman that's, you know, leads the orchestra. You know, you're the person that's the, you know, the director. You're the champion of the knowledge. So you take control. You do that. Maybe conduct a prior knowledge assessment. So even what you can do is when you're in your class and you are boarding something on the whiteboard, or you have a PowerPoint and you've got your lesson outcomes on the PowerPoint, before you go to explain the task, you ask for, some people call it top-down knowledge, where it's academic and it's from books and they've read a lot of information on that subject and they know a little bit about it. Or bottom-up knowledge is from experience. So you might say, okay, right, what does anyone know about accounting in general? Give me some, it's like a brainstorm. Give me a few suggestions here. Come on, does anyone here have any comments to make on that? And just test them. You know, we're always looking at accredited prior knowledge and learning, APLs, before people even come into your class. So at the beginning of the year, when you're doing any diagnostics, you know, someone could be still coming back year after year because they're going through the levels. So you know them, and you know that they've achieved at entry 3 or level 1 or level 2. So you know that, and you know how they are as students. But it's always good to test to see what do they remember about their prior knowledge. So that's quite effective to do that as well. Yeah, facilitate effective groups. So we've talked about different methodologies to do that. So you're always trying to make your teaching classes, your learning environment inclusive. So you can mix people up. It's sometimes the best way, and this includes learning preferences, is to do what we all have done, is you're all 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or right, okay, all the ones you're group A, all the 2s group B, 3s group C, and then people are all together regardless of their learning preferences, because when they're thrown into the lion's den as such in that way, they have to get on with it. Now, if they don't, obviously there's an opportunity for you to manage that newness in the group, because groups will have different dynamics. So someone might take the lead in the group, someone might be the note taker, someone could be bring conflict to the group. It's an interesting dilemma, but often your groups or your individuals you stay together it can be unhealthy. So you want to try and, you know, liven them up a little bit and make them realize that it's not just me and my friend every time here. It's I need to get to know some other people in the room. And then diverse range of assessment methods. So what could they be? Diverse range of assessment methods. Could it be verbal assessment? Could it be written assessment? Could it be a presentation? Could you ask them to summarize?
Yeah, question answer session.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. So, you're the leader in the group. You're in control in the group. You're the person that calls the shots, as they say. So your role is as an effective teacher will include everyone. It will offer diverse assessment methods. It will try and work through relationships, either bad or good, with students. You will be clear about everything that you ask them to do. You need to continually test them as to what they're learning in a strategic way as you go along in the lesson. So waiting to the end of the lesson isn't enough. It's not enough because the memory only holds 6. The memory will only recall 6 facts. So if you've given them, as you do in these lessons, lots of information, which is, there's a lot in each of these lessons, I do not expect anyone to recall, oh, I remember every single model, or I remember every single theory. I know I don't expect that, because our memories won't do that anyway. It doesn't allow us to do that. So we have got to remember that even if we want them to recall, because that's the short-term memory process, and then that will store it in the long-term memory, we're trying to get them to internalize that knowledge so that it's stored in the long-term memory for them to be able to go back to their long-term memory to be able to use that in an exam or in a practice test or a verbal method of assessment. That's all we want. So, I mean, it is a bit sometimes like a circus, you know, we are throwing a lot of things up in the air and we're trying to catch them. And sometimes it's not possible. But all we can do is be inclusive, make our teaching and our assessments inclusive, plan for diverse range of individuals. But we've got to remember at the point of all of this is us. We've got to be kind, you know, to ourselves. We've got to be, you know, give ourselves time to de-stress, relax, reflect, and then make note of how could I have done that differently.
Yeah.
So any questions about what we have been talking about this evening so far?
Do we have to include 1.4 in the assignment?
Yes, so what we're going to do then is, so we've got 1.4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
1.3,
And then we have 1.2,
1.1.
yeah.
All four, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So I would, yeah, I would suggest that you combine 1.3
Yeah.
and 1.4.
Yeah.
And I think that makes life a lot easier
Yeah.
for all of us. So if you're looking at right, let me see. Right, so if we just look at a quick method of achieving that.
Yeah.
So we know that one of the questions is analyze. And we know that really the next part is explain. Right, so we if we look at 1.3, I'll share this with you.
Yeah.
So we're looking at analyze. Right. New share. So we're looking at analyze models of learning preferences.
Yeah.
Right. And then we do have the other criteria, which is how identifying and taking account of learners' individual learning preferences. So let me just copy that one. Right. All right, so that should be 1.4. Right, so we know that we have to do a few things. So, for example, here. Now, in my 1.3, so I'm going to look, say, just for example, at Bark, yeah? Now, that's a model of learning preference. Now, what you need to look at then is, right. So you're writing a little bit about bark, for example, in one of your paragraphs. And then what you'll be looking at then is 1.4. Oh, 1.4. Right. Identifying and taking account of learners' individual. So you're only in this one, it's only explain. Yep. So you are explaining, yep, how just taking into account learners, individual enables inclusive. So we'll just put P, teaching, learning, assessment. So what you're looking at is these are being combined at this point. So if you're looking at FARC, for example, so you could say using FARC. Yeah. So what FARC does enable us as teachers and assessors to ensure that we are yep. Now here you need to give an example. So you would talk about a visual learner and what you do to cater for their learning preference. So what do you do for them? So you could have maybe PowerPoint, you could have pictograms, you could have charts, diagrams. So anything that's visual, you're doing that. So how you're doing that is, so you're catering for a visual learner through these methods. Now these methods are you are enabling the learner to achieve their learning outcomes by a learning preference that just suits them. Then you talk about auditory. So what do you do there? So you maybe produce podcasts, maybe variety of maybe listening exercises. Teacher speak, yeah, because you speak and they listen. You could get them to peer on peer work, you know, in pairs. So they can also do question and answer.
Yep.
Sessions, you know, because then they speak and someone listens. But what they can also do, which is a very effective assessment method with auditory learners, is they can do
Group discussions.
yeah. So they can do summaries of what someone has said because they're listening and they're good at listening.
Yep.
And then obviously you go and you talk about, then the next one is going to be about kinesthetic learners. So can you see what I'm doing?
Yep.
So what I'm actually doing here is I am combining this one into 1.4.
Outlining how to do the assignment.
Yeah, and then what I would suggest is then say this one here could be still 1.3, but you're using another model. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just say Kolb. Kolb is not very good. And then you talk about Kolb's model. How could Kolb's, so you're looking at 1.4. So how does Kolb's model work? You know, so how does this model work, you know, practically? So maybe it doesn't. Yeah, maybe it doesn't. I don't think it does. I don't think it does, but you know, you might think differently. And so then you have to apply that model to your reality of your teaching and your learning and your assessment. So what you're referring to is, don't forget in all of these, so you're actually analyzing this model by putting it into practice in your classroom situation. Do you sort of see the connection? Yeah. So what you need to do is you need to put in some quotes. So from the PowerPoint, you'll get the quotes, put the quotes in, you know, reference some quotes, reference Kolb, some quotes about Kolb. And then if you choose another one, again, 1.3, maybe who would you choose, Barrett? Right. Who would you choose, Conica?
Probably Bandura.
Right. Okay. So choose another one.
Yeah.
And Bandura
again,
as well as
yeah.
The scaffolding one. Which one is that?
Skinner.
Yeah, that's it.
Right. Okay. Now remember, just before we go too far with this, remember you are only looking at, on this occasion, now you back up your knowledge as you have just stated here this evening. You back up your knowledge in this analytical side, because remember, this is analyze. So you might say something like FARC, for example, FARC is an effective model which universally can be applied to any teaching, learning, assessment. So you don't abbreviate or do acronyms, just, you know, write it in full. Look at a little bit of, when you're analyzing anything, look at a bit of a criticism of it, because there are criticisms of it. So who said that it's always good? Is it always good? But for you, it could be good in the class because it's very effective, and it is anyway. Now, Kolb is abstract. That's just my opinion. So Kolb, you know, it's effective for academic purposes, you know, in understanding the concept of how learning takes place, really. And then you might say, but however, it's a bit abstract. It doesn't apply to my situation. I mean, I couldn't use that in my teaching, learning, and assessment. It would be impossible, because I'm not going to be someone in a classroom who's thinking about Kolb. Now, obviously, when you're choosing another model here of a learning preference, so for example, you could choose something like Herman. Yep.
Yeah.
So if you did decide to, I mean, the Honey Mumford model is also good. It's practical, and we talked about that at the beginning of the lesson. So you're looking at the model. Now, when you look, remember, you have to look at the model. So for example, if you looked at the Honey Mumford model, just to give you some idea of the shape of how it looks, this is what you have to look at. Right, so that is the model. So when you're looking at Kolb, you're looking at the model. So you can't, You can be critical of it, but you must remember, where have you detailed the model? Is the model detailed? Now then what you're saying is, well, Honey Mumford model, pretty similar to Kolb, following learning activists. Yes, I mean, in my teaching, learning and assessment, I am able to notice or activists in the class.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then talk a little bit about these active learners, you know, who do things practically and they gain knowledge. There are theorists in my class as well, because these people are the people who like to learn. So really, in a way, you're copying from this, but you've already set up the scene, which is the theory, which is the model that you choose. And in that way, what you're doing is you're applying that to that. So is it realistic? Does it work?
Yeah.
Is it, in some senses, it can be quite good to analyze things in a SWOT analysis. So you're looking at the strengths of the model.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the weaknesses, the opportunities for you in your teaching, learning and assessment. And then you're looking at the time frame for everything. Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's got a lot of strengths, weaknesses. Well, I just can't every day keep my eye on remembering Honey Mumford. So you're being honest about yourself in this as well. So, but do you see how you can take the 1.3 and apply it to the 1.4?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, is this clear now? Do you feel happy enough that you're not having this handed in by next week? I mean, of course you do know that. But I mean, you're working on your 1.1 and your 1.2, but for this one now, you've got everything that you need for 1.3 and 1.4. So now we're set up. So actually what we're doing is we're getting ahead. We're getting quite well ahead on everything. So you're not behind. If you decide, oh, that's easy enough, I'll do it like that, you can even do it like that, like a table, tabular format, doesn't matter. But remember, every assignment that you're doing, just to keep it academic, make sure that you're putting in using your Harvard style referencing. Make sure that you've got your footnote, your footer with your name on it, your learner number, your title of your course. So make sure that you've got all of that on it as well. Obviously, if you're just sending the draft for me to check and to help you with it, you don't need that at that point. But then when you have your final version, make sure that it's kept official. That's all. Yeah, that's all. And at some point, they're all going to have to be signed, printed off, authenticated by a signature with you and myself. So we're going to have to do that. But do you feel happy that, or am I pushing you too much? Do you feel that you're progressing well enough?
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you enjoying it, Barrett?
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. What about Connica? Are you enjoying the classes?
Yeah, I am.
That's good. And do you feel there's a lot of pressure? You know, I'm putting a lot of pressure on you here.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
Yeah, but it's okay.
That's good. Remember, I will give you time frames for the submission of assignments. But remember, at this point, see how you get on with the first one. See if you can, have it in by next week. Draft it up even and send it to me and say, what do you think? You've already got, you're getting ahead already with your lesson planning and all of that. So, there's lots of progress being made, and don't feel ever shy of asking, for help, because that's why I'm here. I'm here to help. So, and don't worry. don't worry about any of it. Hopefully I can guide you through all of the assignments.
I have a request. Can we get some reference to the book? If we need to go and refer.
Yes, you can. Yeah, I mean, you can put references in. You've got your books. You can put references in from that as well. You can use some of the theories that you find. I mean, yeah, everything is your own. Everything is individual. This is what our lessons are about, this importance of our individual differences. So if you wish to use something from the book, please do. Yeah, do use whatever you want to. Everything, as long as it's referenced, it's all relevant.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, well, Konica, I'll be looking through the lesson plan after this. I'll send you that feedback, and then don't worry about incorporating anything at this time, because remember, that shows learning, that shows progression.
Yeah.
And have a good lesson tomorrow, and I do look forward to seeing it, and look forward
Thank
to that
you.
recording.
Thanks.
And take care, both of you. I hope you have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
You and you as well.
And you
I will,
too.
I will record all. I will download Konica's recording, and
Okay.
I will put on YouTube playlist and
Yeah.
share a link for
Oh,
everyone.
that's great. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, Barrett, thank you so
Right
much.
to NCFE.
Yeah.
And I'll ask them to, because I did myself on that day, but I think they gave access to different section.
Yeah.
To get section, academic section, basically. Yeah.
Okay, Barrett, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank Indra for the email. I did send the email to Wendy about the classes. So
Yeah.
please thank Indra. I did thank her, but you thank her as well from me.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, take care, both of you, and
Bye.
good luck tomorrow, Konica.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye.